several years ago, I had the occasion to talk to Bidu Sayao, and she told me that she really intensely disliked her own repertory because she wanted to sing the big roles, you know, Tosca and Aida and all those wonderful, wonderful ladies. But she knew what her voice was able to do. She knew what she was able to deliver, and quite wisely stayed away from it. Gali Kurci supposedly disliked her repertory. She also wanted to sing heavier roles. And we even have a very fine pair of recordings of the two principal arias from Trovatore. And she's doing very nicely, but clearly the Gali Kurci voice is not the voice that was meant for Leonora. She knew it. She also knew that it would ruin her career if she tried to force it. So she stayed away from it. When Alfredo Kraus sang in San Francisco, it happened, I was at her debut performance of Puritani with Sutherland. The performance was magnificent enough that I went back 2 more times. But after the performance, I spoke to Kraus in the dressing room, and thinking back of a recent release by the famed pirate king, the king of the pirated records, Eddie Smith, of a recital of his where he sang the last act aria from William Tell, Rossini. And in it, he takes, I never measured it with a pitch pipe, but I think he takes a high E. Could be the high F that was written, but certainly he sings a high E, stupendous. So in the dressing room after that performance I keep mentioning, I asked him, why don't you take on Arnoldo? Oh, he says, that's a very heavy role. I could not do it. I said, well, if you couldn't do it on stage, why don't you record it? No, 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 that would be very damaging to my voice. I will not do that. This, by association, brings me to another singer, Jussi Björling. Jussi Björling was taught singing by his father when he was 3, 4, and 5 years old. He made his debut, singing debut, if we can call it as such, with his brother singing in front of a church in Sweden when he was 5. It is documented because it was reviewed. He continued singing with his brothers and with his father, David, who was a very fine tenor, throughout his entire childhood. The father would give the children singing lessons, I think, nearly every day, or they would exercise every day singing. So here we are dealing with a child who, from the moment he could speak, probably, he was singing. Every singing teacher will tell you, save your voice, don't do any singing, don't strain it, at least until you are 18, 19, and then you can go into studying voice seriously. No, these kids were singing all through their, not adult life, childhood, practically beyond toddlers. Every one of them did not have a voice, did not have his voice break at puberty. They lowered from the boy alto into the tenor. Jussi Björling made his debut in a tiny little role, the lamplighter of Manon Lescaut, just a pro forma debut when he was 19. Within months, his next role was Don Ottavio in Don Giovanni, and he was still 19 when his next role was Arnoldo in William Tell. Now, the reviews are complimentary, but knowing that William Tell is a 5-act opera, and the tenor has 19 high Cs and 2 D flats, without any doubt, a lot of his music either had to be cut or transposed. I cannot, with all his attributes, I cannot imagine a young Jussi Björling lasting through a 5-act Guglielmo Tell and singing 19 high Cs, although it was relatively easy for him, and the D flats. But still, he took on this role, clearly acquitted himself admirably. He did not keep it in his repertory. But in his younger years, he had a very large repertory that is not known to the later opera goers in the Western world, because impresarii and the general managers of opera houses wanted the big money roles, Rodolfo, Manrico, things like that. But again, in his youth, he sang Tonio in La Fille du Régiment with the 9 high Cs. And once he learned to sing the high notes, and we have a creditable story that he learned it from Joseph Hislop, the Scottish tenor. He taught him how to sing the high notes, and according to Hislop's own recollections, not really teaching him how to do it, but Björling could imitate. And he literally showed him physically how to sing high Cs. Björling got it, and from then on the rest is, of course, musical history. So, back to my whole thesis after a very roundabout way. If a singer knows what he's capable of, does not overstrain himself, and stays within his means, he can have a long and lasting and successful career. Caruso took on Radames very early. I don't remember exactly the year, but I think it was before he was 30 or just around. Björling sang Radames relatively early, but not frequently, because he knew that he could not just go on and doing Radames in a large way. And he was also, in this country, he was very, very reluctant to, if not suffer, but endure the comparisons with Mario del Monaco, who was clearly the clarion voice tenor who was singing Radames in those days. Still, he was finally persuaded to do it, and he sang it 3 times in Chicago. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with the delivery or the dimensions of the voice. Although granted, Björling did not have a large voice, but it projected very well. And he was thinking of even doing Otello, and had he lived a couple of years longer, he would have done it, and as he said in an interview, on a recording only. And the interviewer says, but you are a spinto, a lyrical spinto. He says, I'm not that spinto. I would not do it on stage. But I believe that, again, with his judgment, what to do and what not to do, we were deprived of some very fine interpretations. Björling sang his last concert not quite, or approximately 4 weeks before he died. From that concert, we have a complete recording of his excerpts. There he sings the Graalserzählung, the Grail narrative from Lohengrin. And I really dare the last 20, 25, 30 years of tenors to give it a finer delivery than he did to Lohengrin. So I'm not alone with my opinion. Many people think that he should have at least recorded. Given a try to Otello, would have been probably a bit underpowered, but if you listen to his 1950 recording with Merrill of the Sipel Cell, the great duet, you don't have to use any kind of apology for it, and in fact it can stand beside many, many fine recordings of that duet. But he should have done Otello, probably on records. He would have made a wonderful Lohengrin, and he would have made even a wonderful Stolzing in Meistersinger. What we regret that he did not record, and he should have because it was in his repertory, of course, is Faust, Romeo and Juliet. They urged him constantly to learn Don Jose. May have been a little bit too heavy for him, but he should have definitely learned Andrea Chenier, would have been a great role for him. So this is roughly what the little discourse I would like to say about singers and their choice of repertory. Now, one negative side, when a singer does not realize his or her limitations, takes on heavy roles. And again, there are several singers in recent memory whose memory we should not disturb, but they had a very, very fine lyric voice. They started to go into the heavier dramatic repertory. In fact, one we can mention because it has been written up so many times. Giuseppe Di Stefano was a sterling voice, and once he started to go into Don Alvaro and Radames and all those heavier roles, the voice did not really endure the pressure.